There are 2 quarterbacks that are playing for legacy, while 4 quarterbacks are playing for a Super Bowl championship. We'll talk about that here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
That is a fact. It is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, joined by my main man, Matt Williamson, as I am each and every Friday, as we look around the league and use the clips from local hosts that keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on with these teams. We do it right here. We thank you for joining us, making us your team every day on the Locked On Podcast Network, which is a part of the #1 sports podcast network called the Locked On Podcast Network. There you go, Matt. I finally got that out right. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by FanDuel. It's officially playoff mode, man. In every game during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, y'all that hang out with us on Friday, we have a little bit of a different protocol today. Normally, we pick them in the third segment. It's only 2 games. We're not going to do that. We're going to talk about the coaching madness that's going on in the National Football League. I never anticipated we'd have this many openings. And then I anticipate the people that created the openings would be the ones who created them. We'll talk about that. The NFC rubber match, it's probably the game I'm looking forward to the most between the Seattle Seahawks and the LA Rams. We'll pick them there. We'll also pick the Broncos and the New England Patriots. But we're going to start talking about the ramifications of this game. Drake Maye can be playing for legacy. You get a Super Bowl title this early, when people already consider you a potential franchise quarterback, that would be different for his career. And if Matthew Stafford can get a Super Bowl trophy, that's 2. That is a stamp for a first ballot Hall of Famer. The other 2, if they win, you know what? It's going to be, the credit's going to be given to the coaches. Let's talk about that.
I think that's a great way of looking at it. And you kind of prefaced this before we hit record, and I hadn't thought of it in that light. And Stafford stands out to me. Like, to me, I think Stafford goes to the Hall of Fame. You know, whether he wins the MVP or gets to the Super Bowl or not this year, I think he's done enough. But let's say he gets there and wins this game. Then I think all of a sudden you're like, where's he on the list? Is he ahead of Steve Young? Is he ahead of Aikman? You know, not like, is he a Hall of Famer or not? It's where does he stack up against the top 10 or 15 quarterbacks that have ever played the position? And that's fun to me. And I'm stealing this from you, but you mentioned Dan Marino. You and I are old enough to remember Dan Marino in his second season, like Maye, lit the league on fire. And he goes to the Super Bowl, loses to Joe Montana, and never returns, never gets back. And I can make the argument that he's every bit as good a football player as Tom Brady, but he'll never be looked at in that light. I mean, who would you rather play on game day? Marino's pretty low on my list of guys I want to play against on game day.
Very low.
An assassin.
Very low. And matter of fact, if I name all the dudes on one hand, I don't do Mount Rushmore because that's 4. I love to go 5. So if I had to go 5, you don't get to number 5. You don't get past 5 without naming Dan Marino. I'm telling you, he single-handedly wiped out the greatest defense I've ever seen on a Monday night game. And I remember 85 Bears. He totally destroyed them and made them look like amateurs. And the Bears did not want to see them get back and be the team that's facing them in the Super Bowl. But we're going to talk about –
super quick, Wig. I got to tell the real quick 30-second story. When I was the recruiting assistant at Pitt, he grew up like a minute from campus and went to Pitt. That was part of my tour for the recruits. Like, and that was where Danny Marino grew up, and here's the stadium, and here's this. That was always part of the route.
That's awesome. A young man, Drake Maye. Drake Maye has a lot too, man, because, look, you get it this early – Even the great one, Tom Brady, it took him. He didn't even start early in his career, and he got one early too. But
that's a Mahomes type thing.
People are going to start looking at it like, man, what's going on? And I got a theory about coaches and quarterbacks. We'll discuss that in just a second. Check out the boys from I believe this is a crossover show between the Patriots and the Broncos.
I absolutely expect Drake Maye to take a couple of shots downfield. It is a big part of this offense. As a matter of fact, I would think it's almost too big a part of this offense for the first 2 playoff games, because it's almost, one big play and then, wow, it happened. And then the offense just dies for the next 3 or 4 drives. So Drake Maye loves taking shots. He is going to take those shots against Denver. I can guarantee you that. I don't know how many. There's going to be multiple shots downfield.
The reason why I wanted to bring this up is because when Brady and Belichick broke off and Brady won in Tampa and Bill has gone through all the stuff that he's been bouncing around going, there was this big talk about who was most responsible, right?
Yeah. That bothered me.
Yeah, so you get the Drake Maye deal. If they win, this is why I said most of the credit's going to go to Drake Maye, even though Vrabel, because he didn't win it, he was one of the best coaches who had never won. He'll get some credit. But on the other side, even if Bo Nix were healthy, most of the credit wouldn't go to Bo Nix. It would go to Sean Payton. And it's how we cover it. It's how we discuss it and how we talk about it. Now, we don't have the, who's first, Maye or Bo Nix thing to go to the Super Bowl. We have the Jarrett Stidham underdog angle, and the Broncos are buying into it, hook, line, and sinker, and they're sick of everybody talking. In fact, the boys from Locked On Broncos were talking about how they were responding to the national media who was in Denver all week.
The Denver Broncos have thrived all year in the underdog role, and going into Sunday's game against the New England Patriots, they're ready to shock the world. Look, we know all week coming into this game that the Broncos, they're going to be underdogs in this game. And, of course, they are underdogs. I believe that they're 5.5-point underdogs, to be exact, at home. Nonetheless, the most raucous environment, Empire Field at Mile High in front of Broncos country, 76,000 fans waving orange towels, screaming. Well, I tell you what, the Broncos, they thrive in this situation. And the national media was in town all week, Sarah, and I'll tell you a fun little story here. Broncos players, they called the national media out for all of those who were in attendance. It was one of those great things to see.
I love it, Cody. I mean, they need a little bit of that, right? You got to have somebody keeping you in check there. I heard I can't remember whose presser it was. Maybe it was Jarrett Stidham actually earlier in the week where he was calling out James. I don't know if it was James Palmer or who it was, but he's on his phone right now. He's looking at his phone. I love these guys. They're really taking after Sean Payton, aren't they? But
see there, even the underdog thing, they're taking after Sean Payton. So the Denver looks like it's very coach centric, even though the Patriots are coach centric too. Denver more so is more coach centric or more dependent, at least from a narrative perspective, when it comes to the media.
Yeah, when they were talking through that, I kind of thought of Payton in the same light I did Stafford. In the coaching hierarchy, it's not is he a Hall of Famer or not now? Is he a top 5 guy? Is he a top 10 guy? If he won the Super Bowl, Jarrett Stidham, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, a different way of looking at it, but it's also something that makes the game really, really exciting because you get to see these two franchises. Look, whatever you want to say about it, they are blue blood franchises, in my opinion. I probably wouldn't have said that 20 years ago, but now that I've gotten older and both of those teams have won championships, they are considered a blue blood, both of them, for the young guys out there. So it's going to be a fun game, but there's another one that's going on too, and it is a rubber match. The last time these two teams played, it may have been the greatest Sunday night football game we have ever seen. I believe it was on Sunday night anyway, and it was for a whole bunch of things that were super, super important between the Seahawks and the Rams. We'll discuss that, and then we'll pick them. Before we start talking about coaches in segment 3, we'll do it in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life, man. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things over and off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every single deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local tax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. That's right, man. Y'all know what it is, man. The NFL season, we in full swing, man. We headed around the final stretch, and there's nothing like being at the game, the crowd noise, the energy. If you can get to Denver, good luck to you. The only place you might find tickets is going to be Game Time. And Seattle is the exact same thing. Watching from home is great, but being in that stadium for these moments, man, there's nothing like it. That's why the Game Time app gives you the advantage. Back to you, the fan. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NFL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Pull Game Time up. Check it out. Upcoming games, those 2 conference games and the Super Bowl. That's right. You find great tickets, options almost instantly, as they say, instantaneously. Take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today and get back to being there live. All right, Matt, let's get right to it. Got a game in the NFC, man, involving another team, another 2 teams where this is going to be perceived totally different. If the Seahawks can manage to win this game and get to the Super Bowl with their great defense, it's going to all be about Mike McDaniel and how he just drug this team along with a little bit of help of Sam Darnold. On the flip side, if Matthew Stafford can win, we touched it, but I'm going to tell you, he all of a sudden becomes a first ballot Hall of Famer with a bullet. And now you're talking about comparing him to other guys in the top 10 and maybe him booting somebody off the table. I saw Bomani Jones do a podcast this week, said if he doesn't win it, we don't know if he's going to the Hall of Fame. That's a whole lot of stuff to put on 2 games. That's a whole lot of stuff to put on just 2 games, bro.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm there with that. 2 other angles I want to spin it because we did kind of touch on Stafford. McVay, to me, is the best coach in the league. And if he can win another Super Bowl here, too, I think he's going to really start to solidify himself on the all-time list as well. You know, and he's still, like, a lot younger than you and me, which is amazing. I mean, he could do this for 20 more years. I mean, at his age. I also think Darnold could get what was Steve Young saying? Get this thing off my back.
Monkey off my back.
Yeah. I mean, because the big game thing with Darnold has haunted his career. Like, he's never going to be thought of as Stafford or write the book that Maye might, but could be remembered as the guy that could never win the big one for you. You know, if he loses this game, you know.
And that's crazy, and it's shameful that if he wins this, we're still saying he ain't gonna never be. See, the fact that we're sitting here saying that,
I know,
and this is why I love the fact that sports allows guys to rewrite stories and make everybody mess around and find out. And you know, I don't usually say the other word, but you know what I mean. They're gonna be this is going to be a fabulous game because it's almost like this. It's like the Thriller in Manila. This is going to be a continuation of Ali Frazier, man, and it's for everything, for a lot of different things. Here's the boys on a crossover from both Locked On Rams and Locked On Seahawks.
We get the game that everybody expected we were going to get in the playoffs at some point, that rubber match between the Seahawks and the Rams. What are the Rams' vibes right now going into this game? Obviously, they won in Chicago, but it hasn't always been pretty the last few weeks.
No, it hasn't. They really have not put their best foot forward in the better part of 2 months. You know, you go back and you look at the last time that the Rams played 4 quarters of really high-quality football. It was on November 23rd against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a Sunday night. That was the last time that I think the Rams would, if they were being honest about it, say we played nearly one of our best games, that it was the offense was good, the defense was good, the special teams, if nothing else, at least didn't get in the way. Since then, it's been a series of winning football, but not necessarily their best football. I think that what happened in Seattle on that Thursday night really kind of put them in a weird spot after that. Like you mentioned, Corbin, Rams had a 16-point lead well into the fourth quarter, and it felt like they were not only going to win that game, they were going to basically put the division in a chokehold. They were going to put the number one seed very likely in their back pocket, and they were going to be able to just sit at SoFi Stadium and let everything unfold from there.
Listen, I'd be lying if I tell you that the Rams haven't been perplexing, and they have been. And what I mean by that is there's a part of this that they look like the Chiefs. And what I mean by that is they know how good they are. They're just going to stumble along, just get us to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And then we're going – but then the other side of me says you need to learn your lesson about people that think that they can turn it on and off, and somebody's going to jump up and get them, like the Eagles are at home for that same reason. So which one is it with the Rams, man? Seattle presents a lot of problems on defense for them.
They do present a lot of problems. And I want to mention this for both these games. I think there's a very distinct home field advantage, especially in Denver. I mean, there's a lot of young dudes in New England that maybe have never even played a game in Mile High, and your heart's going to be beating a little bit faster, and you're going to be a little bit sucking wind. And I also think it's noteworthy that these two home teams have a day's rest. I mean, this late in the year, you get one more rest advantage. I think that is very, very helpful. But where were we? Which game we picking?
Yeah, let's go. Why don't we just go with that one? Let's go with that one, the game that I'm looking forward to for a lot of reasons, narrative-wise, just the fact that I know for a fact they don't like each other. Mm-hmm. Man, it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick against the Rams because I think when it comes down to it, if everybody plays their absolute best, they are the best team in the league. But
I agree.
Left. But if I had to look at the best unit in the league, I'd say it's Seattle's defense. I told you that last week that I favored them over Houston. Seattle's defense, and mainly their front, man, they can get pressure without blitzing, and then they can guard you up enough on the back end. Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams is great, and I always said that Devontae Adams was brought there to make that one play that they didn't make a year ago. I'm going to go with Seattle, though, man, because I'm right with defense.
I am too, but I'm torn. I mean, I don't love that there's some real injury concerns at left tackle for Seattle. I definitely think there's a distinct quarterback advantage for the Rams. I don't like betting against McVay whatsoever. I've done a lot of Chris Shula homework because I think there's a good chance he's the Steelers' next head coach, and I think he can right that defense that's kind of struggling at the moment. But Seattle's defense is the best unit, and I do think their offense is more than capable. I don't like any of their corners to shut down JSN particularly well either, and I like how Seattle's been running the ball. I'm going to take Seattle in a game that we kind of – it's funny. We've been doing a lot of history here. It kind of reminds me of like Niners Cowboys in the Aikman-Emmett years.
It absolutely reminds me of that kind of stuff, man. Yeah. It does. It really does feel that way. All right, so – Seattle, we both got Seattle winning. That means we're both picking a repeat of a Super Bowl that we've seen. It's either going to be Seattle and Denver or Seattle and the Patriots. So let's go ahead and preview that game. You know what I'm going to do, man? I'm going to go with the team that nobody expects to win again. I'm going with Stidham and the Broncos at home and Sean Payton. And the reason why I'm doing that, you mentioned the altitude, that has something to do. I will tell you this. I think New England's wide receivers are better than people think because I think they're all 6 feet tall or 5'11" and scrappy as hell. Kind of reminds me of back when the Steelers had a whole bunch of little dudes like that, and they were all catching the ball with Kyle Williams, of course. Butte, people don't remember Butte when he was at LSU was considered a first-round pick. He just had a bad last season in college. And then you got Stephon Diggs. Those dudes are catching every single thing that Drake Maye is throwing. But he's going to get some pressure this week. He's going to get pressure inside. He's going to get pressure outside. And the fact that New England has not seen Stidham. Coaches are stickler for preparing for specific things. They haven't seen it. Usually a backup, the first game he plays, the first full game is his best one. Then after that, people catch up to it. That's
you
what
beat me to it on that one. I don't think I'll be picking Stidham in the Super Bowl, but because they'll have 2 weeks to prepare for him. But in this case, it doesn't work in their advantage.
It does not. That's why I'm picking Denver. So I'm going with Denver.
I am too. I thought I'd be the only one. I'm definitely taking the points at home and what I think is going to be a really close game. And I adore Drake Maye. I mean, I think he's going to be the next great one. but he has small hands and he's been fumbling in the pocket. And I could see a play like that being the difference. And I don't love them going to the high air. We haven't had this conversation. I agree. I think the pass catchers for New England are overrated, or underrated. But I think the offensive line and pass protection are vastly overrated. I've never been a Will Campbell fan, and he's been really struggling. And they leave him on islands, and I could see Benito and that pass rush really, really influencing this game a lot.
And then guess what?
Yeah,
their interior is like number 1 or number 2 in the league in pressures.
Yeah.
In fact, the 4 teams left, their interiors are the top 4 teams.
I'm saying I love New England's too. Baltimore's playing great.
Line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think New England, I think Denver's going to depend on that running game a little bit. And I think they're going to win the game, and we're going to have Seattle and Denver. And I ain't going to tell you yet who I'm going to pick because it might not even happen like that. I might have got them both wrong. Let's talk about coaches that have been hired in segment number 3. We'll get to that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All righty. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode every game during the NFL playoffs. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts, and you can apply to the bets you like the most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boost you want to apply. The boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks and then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Let's get to it, man. The Pittsburgh Steelers, you mentioned thinking about Chris Schuler. That would be legendary to have a legendary grandson of a legendary man to go to a legendary franchise. I use legendary 3 times right there. So that'd be nice. The Baltimore Ravens got started with the legacy coaches. I believe him and Harbaugh and Tomlin were let go around the same time. Mm-hmm. And now Baltimore has their man, and they're going back to blast from the past. They're staying on brand, and that's what we talked about. There are certain teams that are going to stay on brand, keep things in-house. Duke basketball is always going to have a kid that played for Mike Krzyzewski, and I think North Carolina basketball is always going to have somebody that played for Dean Smith. It's just the way it is. But the Ravens go to a very familiar foe and, a familiar face, and it looks like everybody's happy about it. Check this out from Kevin Oestreicher.
Diana Rossini, insider for The Athletic, she went on The Herd, and she said, quote, "I know for a fact that Lamar Jackson and those receivers would like Cliff Kingsbury to run their offense. They've shown support. They've been vocal about it. They've been part of some of these interviews too. Lamar Jackson's part of these. He's zooming in. He's in touch with the decision makers of what he likes, who he's liked."
I'm kind of intrigued by the people that aren't really for this. I get that he didn't have too much success with Kyler Murray, but he was on fire over there in Washington with Jaden Daniels. So I think I understand why the receivers will like it. Definitely isn't the traditional offense that the Ravens ran here. Even then, he does run the football a little bit. They're a lot more spread in their offense, a lot more 11 personnel, meaning we'll have 3 receivers on the football field the majority of the time.
Jesse Minter was named head coach. He's a defensive-minded coach. So whoever goes to be the OC in Baltimore is going to be like the head coach of the offense. It seems like Josh Allen has something to do with who's getting hired in Buffalo. And from the sound of it, Lamar Jackson has something to do with who gets hired in Baltimore. I wonder if either of those guys were consulted before their coaches were fired and no one's talking about it.
If the part 1 is true, I bet part 2 is as well.
It has to be.
It almost has to be, right?
How could you include somebody in a decision that is affected by the other decision, but didn't include them in the first part of the decision?
Right. If they don't like part 1 of it, they're not going to be real thrilled to help you with part 2, right? So I bet they were at least aware of it before it happened. You know, I would be shocked if they aren't. That's the first I've heard the Kingsbury to Baltimore thing. Maybe I've been living under a rock, but I like it. I like it. I don't think he's a head guy. I think he's a coordinator. He certainly understands how to use an athletic quarterback. They would need another receiver, as they mentioned. They are not a 3-receiver team, that's for sure.
Yeah, they aren't a 3 receiver. I also like the fact that they went back to the well, man. It's funny. You fire John Harbaugh, but you hire one of his disciples. I mean, it's just like it's like we want what you bring to the table, but we're just sick of you.
We're a different version of you, yeah.
Yeah,
we want your younger brother. We want your son. Your
kids like, yeah, Pops, you got to go get Unc up in here because Unc's a little younger. And Unc's more fun. He ain't got all those rules you got. Yeah, but
I like the mentor hiring.
I do. And I also like the fact that John Harbaugh found a home. And he found a home that needs exactly what he brings to the table. Stability, professionalism, no talk about guys going to sleep in meetings, someone who can handle the Northeast media. He's in New York. And New York is happy he's there. Check this out from Patricia Traynor.
Harbaugh, I don't think he'll go to that extreme. But from what I understand, talking to people who covered him down in Baltimore, he will demand professionalism from his players. And I think, quite honestly, in recent years with the Giants, that professionalism might have gotten away from some of the players. Not all of them, but some of them. You just look at how they, their lockers were. You look at how they performed on the field, the sloppiness, the lack of attention to detail, and you say, where's the professionalism? I don't think Harbaugh will allow that.
I also hear that Jackson Dart is extremely joyful and happy about the prospect of playing for a coach like John Harbaugh. Certainly, you've seen enough interaction between Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson to know that he leans on his quarterback a little bit, and he also trusts his quarterback and gives his quarterback a chance to give his opinion. So I think it's a good hire for the Giants as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Patricia anymore. I mean, they've been going through some pretty suspect coaches, though. We would have a little bit of history here. I'm not sure that's going to get back to LT and Parcells level, but that's a blue blood organization that should be better than they've been in recent memory, and the world will be a better place. They need to be a more respectable, buttoned up unit, and I think Harbaugh brings that entirely. And they're not lack of talent. I mean, it's not that bad a job. I mean, their roster's got some dudes.
Pittsburgh, man, you say Chris Shula, in your opinion?
I think it's either going to be Shula or Mike McCarthy, which is very, very different. They seem like the leaders in the clubhouse right now. Shieldhouse is also very much in the mix. I would love them to somehow sneak Shula and Shieldhouse into Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I was just thinking, even with McCarthy, even though he doesn't want to be an OC, but even that would be fun with those two because Shula's going to need somebody to run it. We used to joke about Mike McDaniel having too many Ferraris and not enough dump trucks. Well, he got hired at a place where they ain't got nothing but dump trucks.
A bunch of dump trucks.
A whole bunch and a dump truck mentality. I think I tweeted earlier in the week that I don't get the fascination with him. I get it, but I don't really get it and understand it. But I get that people love Mike McDaniel.
Mm-hmm.
And then when this hire happened, I was like, that's perfect because the reason I don't get it, those reasons are already there, and that won't be a problem.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by this because the more I dig into it, I think he kind of had to coach one-handed because he had to build his offense around Tua with Ferraris and get it out quick. And now he has so much more at his disposal that I think he just opened up a whole new deck of cards that he can pick from. So what's really interesting to me, and Peacock and I have been joking about this, I mean, could Harbaugh and McDaniel be any more different in terms of personality?
No, they couldn't. And that's the thing, one dude over there with fitted kind of high water showing his ankles, and the other dude got khakis on that he looked like he borrowed from Mr. Belvedere. It's the craziest thing ever, man.
With cleats on.
I think sometimes, it still got cleats on it. And a whistle. I'm like, on game day? Yeah, man. But Harbaugh is like, if you look up the word football coach and just don't let him say nothing, that's him. He's a football coach.
I picture him in the 70s with like those tight bike shorts on,
Yeah, man. Yeah. And he yelling at you, and you're like, come on, coach, move out the way, man, with them little tight shorts.
No water breaks.
Right, man. See, this is kind of stuff you get here on Locked On NFL. But if you're on every day, you can even take it a little step further. Click down in the description for the show that you love. and that you watch each and every day. And you can become an everyday for as little as $5. And you get ad-free audio versions of our show along with merch access. You see those beautiful shirts that I have on if you're watching. Y'all pardon my beard. I'm in the process of letting it grow out, so I look a little bit scruffy and rough. But this still is the barbershop. We'll be here each and every day with you. Matt's going to go get at it and holler at him and Peacock.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. So look at that merch. Look at that merch. Make sure you check out Matt with his podcast. Matt, let them know they can find you again.
Yeah, just hit me up on Twitter at Williamson NFL.
Yep, there you go. All right, man. We'll see you. Y'all enjoy those games this weekend. Tyler Rowland will be there to give you a report first thing Monday morning. Good luck to all the teams involved. Y'all take care.
Very nice.
Thank you.